incident that happened to me yesterday. Something I hope might help some people have a little more peace. I'm always looking for more peace. So, near my little office here in my little town, we're in the woods, and pretty near here, we have a trail in the Forest Service land, the whole deal. A lot of creeks, beautiful. And I'll pop out there once in a while just to get a little break and clear the head, drop into nature, kind of mix things up. So go out with my dog Bodhi. Typical trail day. Been out there lots of times over the last 10 years, hundreds probably. And just doing a typical thing, busted a move, gonna do 3 miles or so. Just out and back, quick and easy. And this quote pops in my head, and it's a quote from Wayne Dyer, rest his soul, the great Wayne Dyer, and he says, "Most people are walking around looking for a reason to be offended." And I used to leave that quote on my outgoing voicemail message, about 12 years ago, I think. I just loved it so much because it just kind of spoke to like how reactive a lot of us get. And I've just noticed in society, I don't know, you guys probably with me on this if you watch any kind of stuff going on with Israel, Palestine, the protesting, the politics today, which are crazy and have been for a long time, the discord around, what's going on with gender identity and all that stuff, which is all very charged, but it feels like there's like a powder keg. Everybody's on edge. There's very little ability to have civil discourse or critical thinking skills anymore. It's just like, come on, offend me and I'll come back at you. And there's a lot of yelling and screaming and name calling. And, the people that propose to have the most compassion for others and want rights for others seem to be, slinging just as much mud as anybody else. So I'm thinking about this quote as I start this walk and thinking about like I've done a lot of work over the last, 5 years to take these bigger issues like the wars in Ukraine, Russia, Israel, Palestine, Hamas, look at all this stuff, the different sides of the gender conversation, to try to really look at both sides, have compassion, not get reactive. If anybody wanted to have a conversation with me, to actually have a real deep drop-in conversation, not just about all those things, but spiritual things as well. And so I was like kind of pat myself on the back for being divinely neutral in some of these things. Feeling pretty good about that and the work there. And then these three hikers come around the corner, and they're three women, which is great. And my dog is with me, and she just runs by them, doesn't even pay attention to them, doesn't bother them. And I kind of got my head down. I look up to just say hi as I pass, be polite. And the first woman in the pack, she steps in front of me and stops me in the path. Like she points at me and she says, "You know what? You need to have a leash for your dog. It's a law." And I'm like, "Isn't this Forest Service land?" And she just sort of looked at me and said, "Yeah, but as of May 15th, it's a new law and you need to have your dog on a leash." And I'm like, well, and I did a really good job of not taking the bait and kind of getting upset and getting in her face and doing things I might have done, a few years ago, let's be honest. And I just kind of said, "Thank you for the information. I'll check it out." And she said, "Yeah, you need to." And I'm like, "Okay, I will. Thank you." And so we just kept hiking. And I noticed that I was pretty good at disengaging. That's something I've been working on too, not taking the bait, not, road raging, so to speak, or any kind of trail rage, we could call it. And I did a good job of just kind of bite my tongue, moving on, like blessing her as best I could. But then I noticed about 100 feet past, I started to get sucked in, and I started to like say, "Why is she the forest police? And who gave her that job?" And my dog wasn't bothering her at all. Like, didn't even say hi to her, didn't get in her way. Like, why does she care if the dog's not bothering anybody? And like, where are dogs allowed to be dogs anymore if they can't even be dogs in the forest? And everybody has to have them on a leash. And I would understand if my dog was aggressive or out of control or not under my control. I get it. That would be a different story. But I noticed I kind of went down the rabbit hole. And then I noticed, wow, dude, you took the bait even though you thought you didn't. And I had asked for basically, I think the reason that quote came up, what most people are walking around looking for a reason to be offended. And sure enough, I think the reason I started thinking about that was I was calling it a lesson. And, my holier than thou, the bigger picture stuff I'm doing much better at. But the little things that ha- I need to work on, this engagement with somebody on the trail and not being reactive, even if it's not with another person in my own turmoil, I was like disrupted my whole hike, disrupted the reason I went there. I disconnect from nature, got in my head, did all those things. I know you've never done that, but once in a while, that can happen in my world. So I then proceeded to have the next quarter mile, half mile of the hike um, be a wonderful or time of reflection about where I get sucked into these little things and get reactive, and that disrupts my peace. And there's a great quote in Course in Miracles that says, If you don't have peace, you've chosen wrongly." So I'm getting better at noticing when I don't have peace or when something's ruffle my feathers. And the deeper truth of it all is like whatever was going on in her world, I don't know. Why ever she's taken that role, I don't know. I don't know her life, her traumas, her suppression, if she's been bullied. And I see that in a lot of different things. So it really helped me sort of like get on the other side of it and to take the lesson and to now have in my awareness something I can work on. So that was a blessing. And then the final part of my hike was wonderful because I felt like I actually called in all this stuff. And so, I did notice when I went into town after the hike, I saw the ranger station and I gave them a call and I got a great gal on the phone, Allie. And now my charge is gone. And now I just was curious and I wanted to know. So I wanted to make sure I wasn't breaking any laws or disrupting anybody's peacefulness because I wasn't abiding by the rules we laid down in our little community. And I got Allie on the phone and I told her the situation with the dog and this woman. She said, "Oh, honey, I'm so glad you called. I'm just so glad you called because there's just some people out there that just think they need to be the ones to enforce all the rules that they think they know, and most of them don't really know the rules. So thank you for checking and bless that hiker's soul because I know she meant well. But I just got to tell you that on the trail you were on and what you were doing, and your dog wasn't aggressive and she wasn't out of control or anything. She's totally allowed to be there off leash. If that was different, then you'd want her on leash." And I said, "Of course." And we had a great conversation and laughed a little bit. And she said, "I think it's for another trail network that she's thinking of, and it's privately maintained, and it's right across the street from where you were." And so, yeah, so enjoy the woods, and please let your dog have fun in the woods. We want dogs to have fun. So I'm glad you called, and thanks for being part of the Forest Service family. And I was like, wow, that was so cool. And I felt so uplifted. And I actually felt like my energy and my insight and my peace actually provided an outcome that I got Allie on the phone with such a good attitude. So we're constantly creating our reality. We're constantly calling in our lessons. And let's try not to be offended as much as we possibly can because it doesn't get to any solution that's of a higher good and seek to understand the other side. So, sending you guys all tons of love and just join me on the journey of learning and growing and making this world a better place. Thanks for being here.